Hello and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Nancy Lewis. Today we're going to be talking about Common Core. We're shooting this Newsmakers segment right here in Kansas City on the Country Club Plaza. We're here with Missouri Representative Bahr. And so you sponsored a bill this year that changed a little. It started out that you were hoping to completely eliminate Common Core. And the way that was mended, it would create the process for determining the standards that we use. Were you okay with the way that changed?
Absolutely, that was my intent all along. The reason for the hard-nosed position to begin with was to force the debate and to give myself the flexibility for negotiation and compromise. Unfortunately, this is the third year in a row that I filed this bill, and I had people who simply didn't even want to engage the discussion, and so I had to start with a hardline position. And then from there, I was able to come to what was, when ultimately became a very reasonable and very bipartisan solution to end Common Core in a reasonable way.
You know, there is some great information out there about Common Core. There is also some misinformation.
From both sides, yes. From
both sides, yeah, about the Common Core. So did you find as you went along this process that you learned some things that surprised you?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One of the biggest critiques I get about the way I compromised on the bill is that a lot of times people say compromise is a bad thing, and they'll say, well, you're allowing Common Core, you're allowing the possibility of our state having similar Common Core standards as tomorrow as we have today. Well, one of the things I realized is Common Core, some of the standards is what we had in the past. Common Core is not a massive revamp in standards, but the biggest change is who controls those standards. It used to be and should be the state controlling those standards. And so with my bill, the state will reassert our sovereignty and be able to control those standards. And so, one thing I learned is not that Common Core is all bad. There's certainly good aspects to those standards, but that we can go ahead and reassert our sovereignty so that our schools are controlled by our state and for our students.
So I'm sure as you were involved in this process, you talked to a lot of teachers.
Actually, the very first person that told me about Common Core was a teacher. It was a teacher who was very concerned with the way the direction of the Common Core standards were going. They were concerned with the way the standards were made. They thought they were bad standards. Also, they were concerned with the federal aspect, this nationalization of standards, as well as what they thought was nationalization of a lot of elements of education. So I had, the very first person was a teacher. I know obviously there were teachers who were for Common Core, teachers who were opposed to Common Core. A lot of teachers simply wanted to be able to do their job, and one of the biggest critiques I had from teachers was, okay, now that we've gone down this road of Common Core, if you do a quick stop, that's disruptive to the classroom. And so one of the things that our legislation did is make sure that instead of a quick stop, it was a slow change so that the teachers were not adversely affected.
So what happens next?
So what happens next is we create a board, panel of educators to look at our standards and create new state standards. So there's two different boards, one to do standards K through 5 and one to do standards 6th grade through 12th grade. And then these will be primarily Missouri educators, but we'll have people from the education system, from higher education, lower education. We'll have representatives from the school boards, the superintendents, as well as regular parents. And so we'll have a group of Missourians who will look at the standards and will create standards for our state. And then there will be a public process as opposed to the almost behind the scenes, behind closed doors process that Common Core was created. And so we'll go ahead and implement new standards. And after those new standards are created, then we'll create tests so that we have, so we're properly testing our kids on our state standards.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, and thank you for being here. We hope to see you next time on Newsmakers.